All right. All right. Okay. We've got some stuff going on today. Last night, a new podcaster named Rafael Gomez decided to debate Andrew Wilson on the Whatever podcast, which brand new podcaster versus world-class debater. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, while I'm getting that ready, we'll probably do some other Whatever podcast stuff also. And yeah. One second while I'm just getting this loaded up. And ready to go. But yeah, apparently the debate is going to be on feminism. I don't know if that's where it'll end up. You know how these things go. All right, guys, I'm almost done. All right. I'm ready. Are y'all ready? I don't know who this guy is, so we'll have to see and find out what the deal is. And we'll have to see if he does a half decent job. I mean, maybe he's a half decent debater. We'll see. We will find out.
I'm your host and moderator, Brian Atlas.
Hello,
a few
Brian.
quick announcements before the show begins. This podcast is viewer supported, heavy YouTube demonetization. So please consider donating through Streamlabs instead of soup chatting, as YouTube takes a brutal 30% cut. That's streamlabs.com/whatever. Link for that is in the description. We prioritize messages that are made via Streamlabs. To read a message is going to be $99 and up for today's stream. We're going to read those in batches at various breaks throughout the debate. There will be no instant TTS. We're also live on Twitch right now. Pull up another tab, go to twitch.tv/whatever, and you can drop us a follow and a Prime sub if you have one. Without further ado, we have a few topics and prompts for today. You will each have a 5-minute opening statement where you will introduce yourself as you like. And then the rest of the show will be open conversation with some prompt changes and breaks for messages from the audience. And then you will each have a 5-minute closing statement. And you're going to open, so go ahead.
My name is Rafael Gomez. I'm the host of Women on Men, where I interview women about men and dating. And here's my opening statement. I'm not here to fight men. I'm here to fight for them, because the red pill is presented as medicine, but it's actually a poison, and peer-reviewed research proves it. Red pill and manosphere content preys on angry, rejected men and turns their pain into blame. It tells them women are the enemy.
He better have that peer review with him.
That dating is a war and they're losing. That feminism ruined everything. The very people they want to date become their adversaries, and it's easier to buy into that story than to look inward. But the science is clear. Studies consistently show that red pill communities promote hostile sexism, dehumanize women, and radicalize male pain into misogyny. And to top it off, it's not helping them date either. Men who endorse red pill beliefs report higher levels of loneliness, romantic dissatisfaction, and psychological distress. But the consequences are real and deadly. Just a short drive from this studio, Elliot Rodger murders 6 people at UC Santa Barbara
Ooh,
with the
can't talk about
manifesto
that.
filled with hatred for women.
You gotta
He
clear- don't
Yep.
do that.
Don't do what?
Yeah.
Don't do the manifesto. Don't do that for YouTube purposes. Like, just skip that part. Or maybe.
And it's
Okay.
more for
You
Twitch.
already made the point. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. And he became a martyr for red pill communities, a symbol of what happens when male pain festers into violence. For all the lectures about female nature and alpha dominance, red pill men aren't forming real relationships. They're staying single, bitter, and stuck. The more they consume this content, the worse their life gets. Not because women changed, but because they did. In the end, it leaves them lonely, angry, and blaming everyone but the ideology that failed them. Just this week, Andrew called red pill creators degenerates for pushing casual sex, discouraging marriage, and obsessing over status. Yet here he is today defending that same ecosystem. He also said that the divide between
He's talking about the Pearl Davis debate. He must be.
men and women is a good thing because he believes women will cave first. Andrew wants to keep that division wide because it serves his personal crusade to eradicate feminism, even if it means sacrificing the well-being of the very men he claims to protect. That's my opening statement.
Okay. So I'll respond. A few things. By the way, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. Welcome to our, well, actually, thank you guys for having me, especially the Whatever podcast
Yeah, we know.
chat. Always nice to be back with you guys. And of
We know.
course, the Crucible crew. Thank my opponent for coming out as well for this. So the first thing is you mentioned that the red pill is poison and women are enemies, adversaries. I think that you're making a very classic mistake that many people make, which is that you're associating content creators and their views with what the red pill is. And so maybe we can get in what you think the red pill actually is.
Sure.
So you say that the red pill is making men stay single and stay miserable, et cetera, et cetera. We can get into that too. I actually didn't say that red pillars were degenerates, and I'm guessing.
All right, so this debate is not about feminism, though. This debate is about red pill podcasts. That's more interesting. I've watched enough debates about feminism recently. So yeah.
That you're referencing the Pearl Davis debate.
No, you said this on your channel. You were talking to a gentleman on your own channel. I can't remember. He was talking on an iPad. You didn't like the
don't watch
sound. It was
his
something you
little
posted, I think,
stuff.
Tuesday.
Okay, yeah. So there are a lot of degenerates who are red pillars, but I wouldn't make the claim that the red pill to me is just a descriptive packet. And you say that Andrew wants feminism to be destroyed at the expense of men. It's the opposite. I want feminism to be destroyed because I think that protects and helps and assists men. So I'm talking about a gender divide. What I'm disassociating is that there needs to be, when I say gender,
1 second.
like festive pillars. But and you say that Andrew wants feminism to be destroyed at the expense of men. It's the opposite. I want feminism to be destroyed because I think that protects
Classic
and helps
Andrew.
and assists men. So I'm talking about a gender divide. What I'm disassociating is that there needs to be, when I say gender divide, women in the role of female gender roles and men in the role of male gender.
At least it does seem like he's familiar with Andrew. If he's been but he may have only been stalking his content for the last week, and that is not enough research. But we'll see.
Roles. So that's the divide I'm looking at. No, I'm not looking at a divide of
It's well spoken, at
men and
least.
women not being
so
close
far.
to each other. I'm looking at the divide of I don't want sameness when it comes to gender roles because that's really bad and it does not suit society very well. So kind of with that, I'm happy to just kind of dive
Some
into
of
whatever
them.
you want here.
Sure. So I know you say the red pill is kind of this ideology, but red pill,
Not an ideology.
whatever word you used.
It's a packet.
It's a
descriptor
data packet. I've heard you say that. I understand. But the only way that message is really disseminated is often through these big content creators. Most of the people come across a red pill from things like Fresh and Fit, Andrew Tate, this channel. That's how that packet is distributed. And there are prescriptive messages.
How did they
in
come
that.
across it?
I don't know. The internet.
All right, so he's in trouble because he already doesn't know. When you're going into a debate about the red pill, you have to know how they view the red pill. They don't view it as prescriptions. Those are separate entities. The red pill is just some information. The specific creators that people think of as red pill all have their own different prescriptions for how you should take the red pill and apply it to your life as a man or a woman, I guess. But unless you know that, like, he has to argue from that perspective.
That is the internet, the algorithm.
Do you think they made it up?
Do I think who made it up?
That those red pill creators that you're talking about, do you think that they just made all that stuff up?
No, I don't. I think there's too many similar messages for it to be made up.
Yeah, so there's like sources for this stuff, right?
Wherever they're sourcing it from, I'm not sure, but they're disseminating
so like one
it.
such source would be a guy, his name is Rollo Tomasi. The godfather of the red pill. He's going to be pissed that I said that because it's like an ongoing meme, but
He is.
He calls it a praxeology, right? So if it's praxeological from his perspective, he's saying there's no prescriptions here.
Can I confess something, Llama?
I'm all ears.
Since you recommended Monday.com's AI blocks, work got so much easier.
I know.
You know I'm in sales, right?
Yes.
Did you know that with AI blocks done to Monday, I can summarize all of our sales calls, which takes forever, into a clear...
Right? It's not designed around prescriptors. It's designed around descriptors. So if you're going to criticize the red pill, you should probably start by criticizing the descriptors. But if you wanted to criticize individual content creators for their prescriptions, I think that that's fine, but that's not the red pill. The red pill is a data packet of descriptions which are trying to express and explain interpersonal sexual dynamics between men and women.
I think the gentleman you mentioned, most people haven't heard of. I think most people
All
are
of them
getting.
have heard of them.
I think most of the people are getting their
Every red pillar has heard of Rollo Tomasi. Every single one.
information from the millions of subscriptions to Fresh and Fit and whatever. And
Fresh and Fit, he goes on often. They have a very close
Myron Gaines,
relationship.
I'm sure, is much more popular than him.
Yeah, well, the thing is like, maybe, but Myron Gaines is not the... Are you saying he's the red pill?
I think he's one of them.
Okay, so what is... Let's start with that. What is the red pill?
I consider it
God.
content that claims to reveal the truth about women but promotes misogyny and male victimhood.
Okay, so you think that the descriptors do that?
I think the content creators that are prescribing what the red
So
pill
it's
is.
not. So it's not about. So it's about content creators.
Sure.
You just think that. So there's just content creators who you just.
Oh, you can't say sure, like with a shrug in a debate against Andrew Wilson. This is. I gotta give him a chance. I'm sorry.
disagree with their message.
The majority of the red pill content creators, I disagree with their message.
Well, okay, but okay. Well, what's the majority? Like, how many do you think there
The
are?
most popular of the bunch. The ones that have the most viewers, subscribers.
Okay, so who are these guys that you're talking about?
Fresh and Fit is a big one. Andrew Tate is another one. And the
Okay.
Whatever Podcast is another one.
Fresh Fit, Tate, and whatever. So here's an easy one. I guess let's start with whatever because I'm pretty familiar with the content here. So what is the message that's being put out there?
There's a lot of misogynistic messages that come out of this podcast. And I
Well,
have
let's start with
several
what is
lists.
misogyny?
Misogyny is the hatred or dislike of women, the active dislike of women.
Plural, women.
Yeah, correct. The entire
So
gender.
not the active dislike of a woman.
No, not typically.
So it's just women.
Yeah.
Okay. So misogyny is the active hatred or dislike of women.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
And Fresh and Fit is another big
Now,
culprit of that.
Let's start with whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is the misogyny or the dislike of women, which is promoted on this channel?
It's presented as a dating podcast, but it's really not. The topics that typically come up
Well,
on
let's
this
start with
podcast.
that. What makes it not a dating podcast?
I'm about to go into that.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
A dating podcast should not discuss whether or not women should be submissive.
He's already angry, and that's not gonna. This is already going poorly.
Whether women should vote. On Sunday show, you ask women how many pumps after they tell you to stop is it grape. That's not a dating podcast. That's one of the craziest questions
That was a weird diversion.
I've ever heard. You basically
think
say
Andrew was there.
divorce hurts men, marriage is pointless. I don't know how that's helping your audience. I don't know how military conscription has anything to do with a dating podcast. I don't know how, guests being shown a submissive ex-girlfriend and saying, would you bow to your husband? Would you bow to your husband? That's not a dating podcast. That is
Okay, the bow video is hilarious. I'm gonna give them that one thing. The bow video is hilarious.
Promoting hatred of women and misogyny as well. Female guests are pressured to reveal their body count and then mocked. If they don't reveal, they're interrogated until they reveal.
He should really hone in on that, because Brian does this crazy interrogation thing. Anytime anyone doesn't answer a question or doesn't answer it the way that he wants them to, he'll just like attack, and just constantly re-ask the question, and he gets like flustered and upset, and it's just so cringy. He should really hone in on that, because he doesn't just do it with the body count question, he does it with other questions too.
Women with OnlyFans are moralized and told to quit. Male promiscuity is excused and celebrated. Women are asked about their
Oh, male promiscuity is not celebrated on the Whatever podcast. He might be confusing that with Fresh and Fit.
peak looks, age, and questioned incessantly. Segments like Man, Bear versus Woods mock women's very real fears about male violence, even though statistical realities are ignored and dismissed as irrational. The super chat roast. The guests love to shit on these women every chance they get. And on this show, feminism and women are blamed for most.
The chat is actually unhinged, and he should focus on that also. He should focus on Brian being unhinged and like constantly trying to get the woman to answer questions they don't want to answer. And he should focus on the fact that the chat's attitude kind of reveals what the sort of the outcome of the podcast is. Like, what is the net outcome, and this is or like what is like the product, and it's these men who literally go insane in the chat hating on women. It's not really Brian that does like the misogyny, the like woman hatred. It's mostly the chat, but Brian does do like really aggressive interrogations that are extremely cringy.
Them as problems.
Can I have a? Do you have a copy of that? I'd like to see it. The thing. Because you just shotgunned a bunch of points, and Andrew, you want
Yeah, I
to
would
You can
like
have
to-
it.
Yeah,
one
yeah.
by one?
I also have peer-reviewed studies if you want those too.
Yeah, if you have any, especially if they have a meta-analysis, I'd like to see them.
And just to be, before you give your response, Andrew, my understanding here for the debate was primarily going to be about feminism, not
Me
specific
too.
criticisms of the.
Well, I mean, this is,
The
Yes,
prompts
but-
were about manosphere and red pill.
yeah, so this is, I'm actually fine with this, right? So,
I'm fine with this. I've heard too many feminism debates in the last week, and we're doing another one tomorrow because it's happening right now.
why it's not really a dating podcast, whether women should be submissive, why, I don't understand. Why would that not be relational to dating?
What does submission have to do with dating?
Well, because dating is, especially on a dating show, you would be significantly talking about people's preferences when it came to the social.
If the show is pitting traditional values against sort of modern and feminist relationship dynamics, then whether or not they are interested in being like, this is it's cringy, but it's definitely related to dating.
experiences are having with the
Oh,
opposite
he's not a
sex.
debater.
You're not
I
talking
know
about
it.
your preferences. You're talking
This is
about
not
their
gonna
preferences.
go
'Cause
well.
When you talk about submission, you're talking about from your worldview, women should be submissive.
Okay, but what, from their worldview, that they could also have maybe a counter to that why they shouldn't, or also a lot of them say yes they should. So the idea here for submission, especially, would be I don't see how that's not dating related.
Problem solved. Fiverr's got talented freelancers for anything we need.
I don't know how submission comes up on any sort of date. I don't know if you've ever been on a date in the
Well,
last
if you're
20
asking,
years.
so
but
okay, so if I ask you, what type of woman do you want? And
Okay, but if you're a liberal and a feminist like you are, when you go on dates, you're probably already dating women that like you're sort of predisposed to a certain relationship dynamic. You're not really going to discuss submission on the first date. But if you're like a traditionalist and a conservative and you're dating conservative women, then you might have this conversation. I mean, Oh, he's not a debater.
You go
This
through the
is
traits
bad.
and you say, I'd also like a submissive woman. Does that make sense to say as a trait?
Sure, I don't know many people that would just offer that up as one of the first things they want in a woman, but maybe those are the people you hang out
who
with.
said it's the first? If I'm
You
asking,
just said if you ask somebody.
If I'm asking what's your dynamic, and one of the answers is a submissive woman.
Yeah.
That comes up all the time for men in dating.
Okay. In your circles, perhaps.
I mean, no, just in well, how many dating podcast sample sizes do you have here?
I'm on a dating podcast. I made one. I listen to a lot of your shows. I listen to a lot of everything that's out there.
I don't understand any of the dating podcasts that come up when you ask men their preference. They've never once said, I would prefer to have a woman who's more submissive.
The topic of submission only comes up on Red Pill podcasts.
No, it doesn't only come up on
Where
Red
else does
Pill
it come up?
podcasts. It's been on Dr. Phil. It's been everywhere.
Dr. Phil talks about submission every episode.
of
Every
course.
episode?
I didn't say every episode.
Well, that's what
He's
we're
not
talking
doing
about
a dating. Is he doing a dating podcast
Then
every
don't mention
episode?
Dr. Phil as a dating
Is
show.
he
Then
doing?
Don't mention
You
Dr. Phil as
asked
a
where
dating
else
show.
it's
That's not a
mentioned.
dating show.
You asked where else it's
Dr. Phil
mentioned.
as a dating show. That is not a dating
Yeah,
show.
so in any case, any of the dating podcasts that I've seen, it's a very common answer to say that they want to
Name another dating podcast.
And here's the other thing to dive into this.
Name another dating
here's
podcast.
the other thing
though.
to dive into this.
Well, you got to name another dating podcast.
Okay, Fresh and
besides
Fit
Dr. Phil.
happens there all the
Red
time.
Pill content, exactly as I said.
Okay, so when you're talking about a dating podcast, what do you mean by that?
Something a little less, I don't know, misogynistic, perhaps.
What does that mean, though?
I've already explained it to you and defined it.
If any man has a dating podcast, is it Red Pill or
I have a dating
misogynistic?
podcast and it's not misogynistic.
I see. And let me ask you a question. What kind of questions do you ask on your dating podcast?
I ask them what are their priorities in a man. I ask them, do you have advice for men in
And
dating?
how many men have you had on?
Zero. It's called Women on Men.
Oh, I see. So you're a misandrist?
Absolutely not.
Well, I don't understand. Why don't you want a man's opinion?
Because I want to ask women specifically. That has nothing. Misandry involves hate, and I don't hate men.
Oh, okay. I got it. So you only have on women.
Correct.
And you don't ask them, when you ask them about preferences.
Yeah.
Right? Do they say that they want things like assertive men?
No.
Do they say that they want less assertive men?
I give them a list of 10 traits and say rank these between your top 3 and your bottom 3.
Okay, so you're giving them the answers.
I'm not giving them the answers. They take a lot of time to think about it.
But you just said you gave them 10 traits.
Yeah, that's not the answers. Those are options.
Yeah, that's answers that are options you can choose from. So multiple choice.
That's not answers.
Yes, it's answers.
Okay, they're answers, Andrew.
Yeah,
That
you
makes
gave him
happy.
10 answers.
Yeah, if he doesn't put submissiveness or not on the list, then it's not gonna come up. Oh boy.
And say, choose from
And
these.
then they sort them. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that's their
so
answers.
you're making them choose from answers that you give them.
Okay,
So you're
okay.
literally feeding them their answers,
Yeah,
and then
feeding them their
they
answers.
choose them.
Yep. And they don't come and say, "Man, I wish you would have had this on the
Well,
list."
how
because
come?
it
How,
covers
why is it then? Well, how long have you been doing it?
Can we get back to misogynistic podcasts?
If it is the case,
Can we get back to misogynistic
and if
podcasts?
it
No,
is
we're
the
not.
case that it is your criticism.
Can we get back to misogynistic
If you're gonna have
podcasts?
criticisms for whatever, I'm gonna have criticisms for your podcast.
You haven't even listened to it, so don't talk about it.
Do I need to?
Pull it up and
I
listen
can
to
listen
it.
to it from you.
Go ahead, pull it up on YouTube.
I can listen to it.
Go
from
ahead
you.
and pull it up on YouTube. You have not watched my podcast,
okay,
so
did
don't
you-
say here. We're not
did
going to
you-
critique my podcast.
Why not?
Because you haven't even watched it.
Let's watch it.
Go ahead, pull it up.
So if we pull
we
up
got
your
45
podcast right
minutes.
now, I can take a
45
look?
minutes. 45 minutes put on 2
Yeah,
times
yeah.
speed, and then we can critique my podcast.
yeah.
But until then, tell me about another
Yeah.
non-misogynistic red pill podcast.
Well, I don't think any of those are misogynistic podcasts.
Yeah, of course not.
You got to demonstrate that they actually hate these women.
By their actions, by the things, everything that's happening right there.
Yeah. So let's go through some more of these.
When Myron Gaines has a college table that says women deserve less, you don't think that's a little misogynistic?
Is that during his podcast?
He is one of the red pill content creators that we're talking
I
about.
had to be a podcast.
Dude,
I thought I had to be a podcast.
Can you
now
act
it
like an
doesn't
adult?
have to be a podcast.
Can you act like an adult? That is the most childish thing
How
I've
is
ever
it?
seen in my whole
That's
life.
you put the you gave me the criteria.
The
bro.
criteria is the content creators,
Oh, it's the
including Myron
content.
Gaines. Yes,
Got it,
I've always said
got
that.
it. So
Nothing's changed
so
in my
as
statement.
we're talking about dating podcasts, or
Correct.
the idea of dating,
Correct.
Is it also possible there's just not that many?
Yeah, there's not a lot of red pill podcasts. The main
No,
ones,
just dating podcasts.
There's a ton of dating podcasts.
Okay, name some.
Mine.
Name some other ones.
There's a guy named Man We're in Trouble. There's Evie Edit. There's
Evie Edit's a dating podcast.
Yeah, she talks about dating and men and women.
Is it a dating podcast though?
Yes.
So they have.
This isn't a dating podcast.
So hang on. So they have.
This isn't a dating
hang on,
podcast.
So on Evie Edit, they
Yeah.
have Every single time they come on, they have multitudes of people on with them, and all they talk
I didn't
about
necessarily say they have guests. I'm not talking about the format. I'm saying that's what the content that comes up is men and women, and this is not a dating podcast
Evie Edits is not a dating podcast in the same way that these are at all.
that we're currently
So
on.
you're just talking about, for you, a dating podcast, just anybody who's talking about dating.
This is not a dating podcast that we're currently on.
Well, prove it.
I just did.
How? Let's go through more.
You want me to read them? So here, why don't we do the first one? Whether women should be submissive. I don't
understand how
would that
again,
not
how would that
relate-
not be? Yeah, actually,
relate
how
to,
would that not be a decent question to ask for dating? I don't get
Do
it.
you ask that on your first dates?
What, if a woman would be submissive?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly, because it's not a dating question.
Why would that? Wait, hang on. Let's back up. Let's assume for a second that anything that I would ask a woman on the first date isn't something you would ask a woman on the first date. What does that prove?
I'm saying the things you guys do. Do you think you're
Yeah,
going to
no,
look
can you
better in 10
answer-
years? Do you think you're
answer
going to
my
look better in 10
question?
years? Is that something you asked on the
Answer
date?
my question.
What's your body count?
Can
Do you
you
ask that on
answer-
the first
can you-
date?
can you answer my
Do you
question?
ask what's a body count on the first date?
Before you start
Yeah,
shotgun.
you
I've been asked that by women on many occasions, actually. So, on a first date, for sure.
have different questions.
Before you start
have different
shotgunning questions,
You have
just-
different questions.
I'll never.
By liberal women. So, I feel like that one is like kind of valid, even if you think it's weird. Like people do that. It's a thing. People ask that.
Never answer one of yours if you never answer one of mine.
Go ahead, Andrew.
So here we go again. What does it actually prove? What does it prove that if I asked a whole sequence of different questions from you on my first date, what does that prove?
Yeah, you're not asking these questions on your first
Can you
date.
answer my question?
I just did.
What does it prove?
It proves that you're not asking these questions
So
on
it
your
doesn't
first
prove
date.
anything?
It does prove it.
What does it prove?
That you're not asking these kinds of
So
questions
what
on
is
your
it-
first date.
So what is that proving outside of that?
It proves that these are more
Does
misogynistic
it also
questions.
hang on? Does it also prove that I don't ask
not
any
proof.
other questions other people would ask that you're not asking here?
I have no idea if it proves
Like
it or
it's
not.
just so stupid, dude. It proves
Yeah,
nothing.
okay.
What does it prove?
What do those questions prove?
Nothing. They don't prove anything.
Okay. This is just a pure dating podcast.
Dating is about your preferences, anecdotes, experiences.
Yeah, it's about
things
how
that you
many
want.
pumps after she says stop is grape. That's a dating podcast?
Do you think that when people
Hold on, answer that
Yeah,
question, Andrew.
I'll answer it.
I don't think you are.
You have to stop talking.
I
or I
am.
can't answer it. So stop talking.
Okay.
And I'll answer it. Is it the case that when you have, half a dozen people who are sitting at a table and they're building a rapport with each other, that they crack jokes?
You think that's a joke?
Yeah.
How many pumps after a woman says stop is it grape is a joke?
Yeah.
I don't really. I saw that part of that episode. I wouldn't really. It wasn't really framed as a joke. Like Brian went around the table and asked all of them. He brought it up like it was just another topic.
Who laughs at that?
Lots of people. I think it's funny.
I'm not surprised
I
you think,
think
it's
it's
funny.
fucking
I think
funny.
you think it's funny. I'm sure you think it's funny.
It is funny.
Because-
Do you know why it's funny? What makes it funny?
Because you're a little misogynistic.
No. It's because a feminist on this program a few months ago.
I remember, I saw it.
Yeah. So it's a callback to that.
It's not a callback to that.
Yeah, it's a callback to that.
Because that was not about stopping.
Yeah, it was about consent.
Yeah, but that was about your wife sleeping and you banging her while
It's
she's
about
sleeping.
consent.
But that does. If she says stop and you keep going, is that
Yeah,
consent?
the idea there is how long after are you violating consent? That's the idea.
Yeah,
for
that's
it.
a dating podcast topic,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Yeah, of course.
I can answer this one. As long as it takes for the word to register into your brain and for you to gently remove yourself from the situation. Probably 3 to 5 entire seconds max. I don't think you would count it in pumps.
Of course, people talk about that all the time, right?
Do you think that in this modern age, where intersexual and interpersonal dynamics between men and women are so fucked up, and they are fucked up,
and you're contributing.
right? Do you think that the idea, when you have tons of people who are out there talking about consent, that you have feminist academics who are talking about if two people are drunk and they have sex, they're actually technically raping each other, right? Do you really think that these are inappropriate questions to ask during a dating podcast in modernity?
I absolutely believe inappropriate to say
Why?
how many pumps after a
Yeah.
woman says stop is it grape.
Yeah, why?
That is inappropriate.
Why?
Because it should just
Well,
be
how
after
many?
she says stop.
Tell me how many.
I'm not going to answer that question.
You're not going to answer it?
No, because it's a stupid ass question.
Well, I don't know. I think it's a fair question.
Of course you do, because
I don't think it's measured in pumps. I think you got like until like I just said, until the word registers in your brain, and I'd say like 2 to 4, maybe 5 total seconds.
you're misogynistic.
What's
You think
misogynistic
you
about
think
it?
Because that is grape. You're talking about grape in such a lighthearted manner.
How does that?
I just answered the question.
How does that prove I hate women?
Dude, we can go down the list of things you've said.
Look, go down the list.
Out of your 5,000 debates.
Go down the
Oh,
list.
boy.
Do you like women at all?
Love them.
Oh, you love them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how
It's
I
so
know?
funny to talk about
You know
grape.
how I
It's
know?
so funny.
Do you know how I know I
would
like them more than you?
The fact that you would laugh at a
Yeah.
grape question shows that you don't like women.
I laugh. Oh, hang on. Are you saying I hate men because I laugh about prison grape?
No, you don't hate
I
men.
don't get it, though.
You don't
That's
hate
a double
men.
standard,
You don't
though.
hate men. You don't. You love
Wait a
men.
second.
You
wait
only
a second.
care about men. You
so
only
if I
care
make
about
light of a man getting raped,
men. Yeah, you don't see.
that's fine.
You don't see it the same.
And it's not.
You don't see it the
I don't.
same.
How do I see it? You tell
because
me.
you see women as so much less than.
Prove it. I'm looking for the demonstration, not the assertion.
Just watch Andrew's
watch the
videos. Just
assertion.
watch Andrew's
You can
videos.
prove. Oh,
just watch Andrew's videos. and
Just
if you don't
watch
see
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't
You-
proof,
there's
no
tons- there's
evidence,
a million
just watch.
Yeah, no, I'm making it
Oh,
up.
God.
I'm making it up.
So just tell me real quick, how can you?
That is obviously not a debate tactic. Just watch. It just is. My list of things proves it. He's only been doing the podcast for about a month, he said. So obviously he doesn't know any better, I guess. But if you're going to debate Andrew Wilson, you have to be ready with answers for everything. And he's not ready for this at all.
Affirm that I hate women because I might make light of a grape joke for women, but I don't hate men if I make light of a grape joke for men.
I'm not sure.
You know, I know you're not sure because that makes no fucking sense.
Okay.
So moving on to the next one, as we go through this, whether women should vote. So in modernity, women's voting habits, right, have a lot to do with the modern state of society, don't they?
Sure.
And they have to do with the state of people who want maybe patriarchy, or they want highly religious women who allow men to lead, or women who will turn over their ability to vote to their own husband and say, you just tell me where to vote.
Yeah.
You agree with all of that?
Sure.
Okay, so then why wouldn't it be pertinent to ask women what they think about women's voting patterns and voting habits?
Because you talk about revoking the right for women to vote.
So
it's just an easy conversation that people have. Should women vote? That's just something that people talk about around their dinner table, right?
It's okay. Do you think that was an easy conversation when you were talking about whether or not it was okay for white women to vote to date black men?
Liberty.
Liberty Mutual is all she talks about since we saved
I'm a
hundreds by
little-
bundling our home and auto insurance.
Liberty.
It's pronounced Biberty.
Liberty.
Biberty.
Liberty.
Nice try, kid. Only pay for what you need.
That is a little bit of a strange assertion there. We'll see how he compares those two things.
Easy conversation.
That conversation,
Sure.
pre-miscegenation was a pretty hard conversation,
yeah.
right? But do you think that it
He means on like a societal level, because he can't be talking about just. There's a little bit of a difference, I think. We'll let him
was pertinent to dating at the
let
time?
him get to the end of
Okay,
this.
so then if that was pertinent to dating at the time, and they were talking about all the reasons you should or shouldn't do
Right.
this,
The dangers
and it's
of
a
it.
political and
The
it's a
dangers
political
of it.
ideology,
Yeah.
on both sides, right? Why is it not appropriate for us to have a conversation about women's voting patterns when it comes to relationships?
It's not women's voting patterns. It's should
Yeah.
women vote.
Yeah.
That's not about patterns.
Yeah, it is.
That is the question about women
well, how would you
voting.
determine if they should or shouldn't?
I just think everyone should.
Oh, you just think that?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
I don't need to.
You don't need to.
You do need to. You need to tell him why. Bro. This is going to be painful to watch.
No.
Okay. So the thing is I'll just release you from this. I'll just let you skip out on giving me no justification for why everybody should be able to vote.
I don't need
But
to make
I
a
want to know.
justification.
I would like to know. You don't need one.
I don't need a
Oh,
justification
then I don't
for
need
why
a
I think women should
justification.
vote.
Then I don't need justification to ask a woman if she thinks other women should have the right to vote in order for me to judge whether or not she's a submissive woman or not.
Sure, but that's not a dating topic. That's just you being
If I
political.
wanna judge if
that's
she's
just you being
submissive?
political. You guys push your conservative
think-
agenda on this channel, and that's what you do.
Do you think that I want to live in it? Well, I do.
Yeah, you do. And
But
so
it's not my
does
channel.
Jim Bob. I know. Because
not my
homie just
channel.
sits back and chills. Brian's chilling. He's eating popcorn while you ask these
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, but I mean, I literally have made.
It's his podcast.
I have
It's a dating
never made any
podcast.
qualms that
That's
I'm
true.
here to represent my worldview.
He does
I
do
know,
that.
but it's a dating podcast,
Yeah.
and you're asking these crazy questions.
They're not crazy.
They're absolutely.
No. Do you-
Should women vote
Yeah.
is a crazy question in 2025.
Can I also ask you this? Do you think that
But here's the thing. This is what is coming after Trump. It's not going to be more MAGA. It's going to be this. Christian conservative ethicists. And they will do everything they can to repeal the 19th Amendment. That is their absolute stated goal. So he does need to have answers to these things. They're not even that hard. Like if he had done any prep at all, he's new. He's trying. Kind of.
men and women and when they're in relationships get into political arguments often?
Sure.
Constantly, right?
I mean, theoretically, if you're dating somebody with the same values, you're not. But
If you
sure.
marry a woman and she votes against your vote, would that create marital issues?
Maybe, but I don't think you probably would have ever married that person to begin with because you don't have
Probably
the same
not.
values.
You know why?
'Cause you don't have
Because
the
you
same
asked her
values.
what she thought about the right to vote, and she said, "I want women to have the right to vote," and so you didn't fucking marry her. You didn't date her because she doesn't align with you politically. Does that
Do you
make
know
sense?
people? Do you know
now,
people
or-
that do that? Do you know people
Yes.
that say, "I won't marry this woman because she thinks
I
women
won't
should
marry
vote"?
an overly assertive woman who thinks that she's going to be politically dominant in my home. Of
It
course.
has nothing to do about politically dominant. You said if I ask a woman, "Do you think women should vote?" and she says yes, I'm not going to date that person.
And then, but hang on. But then you ask her why.
No, I don't ask her why.
I know, but if you were going to date her, you should.
No, because I think
Yes,
women
you
should vote.
I know you think that,
And
you're
you
not
don't.
every man who lives.
Wow, how
So what do
many
you mean?
men don't think women should vote?
A lot. A lot. He's a little out of touch on this one.
I have no idea, but at least a
You
significant.
think it's a significant amount?
Yeah, I do.
Like, give me a percentage.
Of how? I have no idea.
Throw it out.
That
You're
would
a
be,
smart guy.
That would be impossible.
Throw it
to
out. You're a
determine.
smart guy. You can assume
Throw
how
out-
many men.
you
Throw
want-
out a number. Throw out a percentage in your gut, in your heart of
tell you
hearts.
what.
How many men don't
I'll
want
tell you
women to
what.
vote?
I'll throw that out if you throw out how many do.
Okay.
Okay, you first.
How many men want women to vote?
Uh-huh.
I say at least 90%.
Based on?
Men I know.
So
That's
nothing.
it. Yeah.
So based on
nothing.
anecdote.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like I'm asking you to do.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't give you one.
Yeah, because
I don't deal in
yeah, 'cause-
anecdotes.
No, we don't deal in anecdotes
No.
at all. You deal in anecdotes all the time. But
No,
okay.
I don't.
Yes,
Unless
you
you're
do.
asking me about something anecdotal.
Okay.
So anyway,
I mean,
yeah, there's no reason. There's actually no
okay,
good
so we just anecdoted each other and we're back at square one again. This is
reason that you've given me yet for why it's not
Bro,
pertinent
I
inside
gotta
of a man's
talk to
dating
this
life
guy.
if he wants a submissive woman, why she wouldn't be politically aligned with his ideology.
Okay.
So just pointing that out.
Sure.
You actually still haven't given me a reason.
Yeah. It's
On
it's a
Sunday's
common
show,
topic.
you asked, well, I didn't ask this, so I don't know anything about it. How many pumps after a woman says stop before it becomes grape? Mm-hmm. I didn't ask that.
I know, but that's why this isn't a dating podcast.
Because you made a joke.
That's not a joke.
Yeah, it's a callback joke.
It's
like,
not
it's
a
very
callback
clear
joke.
to me that that's
it's not.
callback.
It's not clear because it's
First of all, it's not a callback joke. The topic Andrew was debating with the other woman was about him and his wife's previously arranged agreement that they could start having intercourse with each other while they were asleep. And the feminist woman was saying that was grape. That's a totally different conversation than the pumps question that Brian brought up in the last podcast.
a totally different scenario.
Okay. Even though
It is, yeah.
So you really don't think that that's about consent?
I know what the joke was. I remember it was.
I thought it
very
wasn't a
lively
joke.
Debate.
I thought it wasn't a
I'm
joke.
talking about the callback. I'm
Okay.
saying this is not a joke.
So what makes it not a joke?
Because it's not funny.
Oh, so you don't find it funny? So
Nobody
therefore
found
it's
it funny.
That's
Nobody
not
was
what makes
laughing.
it not a
Not a single
joke,
person.
bro.
So if I go,
The thing that makes it not a joke is the fact that Brian went around the table and asked every single woman and then went on a whole diatribe about it. That's what makes it not a joke. If it was a joke, he would have just cracked it real quick. It would have been bad. No one would have laughed. But then it would have been a joke by definition. But it wasn't a joke. But that's not the answer to why it wasn't a joke. Come on,
go back
dude.
to that timestamp and I look at it,
Please do. Pull
and
it up
nobody's
now.
going to say
Let's
anything.
pull it up now.
Nobody's going to say anything.
The only person that kind of chuckled was Brian.
So then it was a joke.
No,
Then why did Brian laugh?
I'm not sure.
At his own
Because he
joke.
thought it was funny.
Perhaps. If the joke teller thinks it's funny, that's a problem.
Why?
Because if no one else is laughing except the joke teller, that's a problem.
That just means it's a bad joke, not that it's not a joke.
Okay, it's so funny. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I mean, can people tell bad jokes
Sure.
and nobody laughs?
Yeah.
Brian
Bad
definitely
jokes about
can.
But if you
on a
tell the
dating
joke and then
podcast.
you laugh, do you
Bad
think it
jokes
was
about
intended
rape
as
on a
a
dating podcast.
Yeah, do you
Yeah,
think
you're
it
right.
was intended as a joke?
No, I don't.
So why did he laugh?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's very strange.
Maybe out of awkward, maybe out of insecurity, maybe out of all
Very,
yeah.
very
People laugh
strange.
out in uncomfortable circumstances. You do it all the time.
Yeah,
you do
but,
this, like,
but when
loud
I asked you
chuckle.
why, you said because he thought it was funny.
Maybe it's insecurity. I have no idea. Maybe it's
Way to change your
nervousness.
answer, bro.
Oh yeah,
What's
I can
the
change
next
my
one on
answer
the
to new
list?
information. How about that?
It's your information. How's it new?
The next one is divorce hurts men, marriage is pointless.
What? That's literally the opposite of my message.
No, well, he's saying that
It's Brian's message, though. Yeah.
that's one of the reasons how the show is not a dating podcast.
You're
When
actively,
we talk about divorce,
you're actively
hurting men.
promoting people. You're actively saying why should men get married? That's a common talking point.
No, I
in this
usually ask
podcast.
why secular men should.
Why should anybody get
Well,
married?
this is super important. So this, I don't even think you would argue that this isn't dating related. So the span and spectrum between religious and the religious who want to get married in their preferences and secularists who want to get married in their preferences is like fucking night and day. And so I always draw this parallel out when I ask religious people, why do you want to get married, right? Especially religious women. And then you hear this answer, right? You know, I want to fulfill my obligations to God, or I want to, you know, live a certain lifestyle which is based on my ethical system. That's why I want to get married. You ask secularist women why you want to get married, and oftentimes they'll give you a whole complete class list of I want more resources, or I would like security, or they're not unreasonable, right? But they definitely have a completely distinction in opinion for why they want to get married. That is, I don't even think you could disagree that that's 100% valid for dating.
Talking about marriage is fine. Discouraging is not.
When do I ever
This
discourage
podcast
it?
discourages marrying all the time.
When have I ever discouraged marriage?
I didn't say you did. I said this podcast.
I have always maintained, to try to throw you like as much of an olive branch as I can, I've always maintained that to me, I can't create justifications for secular marriage.
Well, by the way, we're also talking about Red Pill Manosphere. Myron Gaines is also someone else, another popular
He
creator.
also can't create. So I've had conversations with Myron about this.
Yeah.
Okay. He also is in the same boat that I am, in that for secularist men, because what Myron says is from the religious standpoint, it makes sense, especially if there's an ecclesiastical authority which can help govern it.
Right.
But he's the same place. Like from the secularist standpoint, justifying it for men is very difficult.
When he's talking about not getting married, he never can.
He's right. There's not a lot of, but it's not just for men. You're really just doing like a governmental reorganizing of like your financial and social status according to the government. It's really not that big of a deal. That's like the only real argument is like that you get this different social status when you fill out your like taxes, and you can get like, there's some loan stuff too, but it is really, the concept of marriage is really like a religious thing. You can make the argument for it, but he's not going to.
Caveats it about being secular. He says, why would men get married? They don't get anything out of it. It's stupid.
Yeah.
And this is the same message that Red Pill content creators are promoting to their people, and that's why they are single. That's why they're alone, and that's why they're isolated.
So I'll cede some
No, they're alone and single because they're complete and total cringe lords.
ground here.
Okay.
that he probably does talk like that, but he's a secularist.
Okay.
So when he's referencing men, right, he's thinking of it from that view.
What does Andrew Tate think about marriage?
Again, what does that have to do with Myron Gaines? One at a time. Don't pivot. Don't red herring.
Wait, and also I just want to come in here. Andrew Wilson is not Andrew Tate, so why is Andrew doing a defense of Andrew Tate?
He's doing a defense of Red Pill Manosphere content.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that they are
Yeah,
content creators of
Look,
that.
I'm fine. I'm fine doing this. So Andrew Tate is looking at things also from
Thanks, Brian.
the perspective of Muslim, and he's looking at things from. He has a variance perspective that's kind of interesting, but.
We are not a traditional cafe. We're completely unconventional, and my Wix website really has to capture the same magic.
It's not that
I
interesting.
actually understand why it is that secularists discourage marriage for men. That makes sense to me, and I actually understand why it is that Tate would discourage marriage for men as well. That also makes sense to me. But since his conversion, he actually seems to discourage it less, but says instead that there needs to be reforms and changes to the way that the laws are done so that men don't take as much risk in marriage.
Okay, so going back to my opening statement, 3 of the biggest podcasts that promote Red Pill content, whatever, Fresh and Fit and Andrew Tate, most of them, excluding you and Jim Bob, discourage marriage typically. So that's my point that I've been making this whole time, that you guys, these content creators are discouraging men and women from getting together because it benefits them.
But I need you to tell me this now, okay? I'm going to actually concede this point so that you can tell me why the fuck that's bad for men.
Do you think men shouldn't get together with women?
I would love to hear your justifications for why it is that secularist men ought to get married to secularist women. Go ahead.
I think that red pill men, especially the incels of the world, 95% of them report severe depression and they're lonely. So these kinds of podcasts promote people being alone, and that is dangerous to men.
You're right. But have you...
That's kind of different because entering into a government marriage contract is different than being alone.
Looked at the unaliving rates for divorced men.
They're high, but
No,
do you know
how much higher?
80% of all unalives,
higher?
80% of all unalives are men. 80% of all unalives are men.
And by the way, why didn't you throw in, because you're only giving one side of this, right? I've read
Pretty sure like 80% of homeless are men too. Random other 80% number that has to do with men. Sorry.
probably all of these studies. In fact, you can give me the list. I bet you I have.
You had the list.
Here's what's interesting. In the study that you're citing specifically, especially when it comes to unaliving.
Multiple studies.
Yeah, especially when it comes to unaliving. Which demographic unalives the most? It's those who cohabitate. The cohabitating men who are unmarried, right? They actually unalive more than the men who are married or the men who aren't married, including these depressed men. And cohabitation seems to be like kind of the number one thing that secularists push, right? Go ahead and cohabitate and go ahead and live together. There's no reason for you to have any type of...
That's a pretty good argument for secularist marriage, Andrew. You just made one. You were just saying a moment ago that you couldn't make an argument for a secular marriage, and you just made one.
Moral standards. There's no reason for you not to go ahead and move in with your girlfriend. That's what they push.
Do you
That's
know who's
their
getting
idea.
married more right now than any other demographic?
Who?
College-educated people.
Yeah, that's true.
Mostly secularists. So I don't know what you're
So
talking
what?
about.
What
They're
does that have
not
to do with
secularists aren't pushing don't get married.
What does that have to do with anything?
This idea that you're saying secularists have this non-moral code where they're saying just cohabitate, it doesn't matter. That's not what's happening because they're actually getting married.
Yeah, because women who are in college have access to much higher status men than women who aren't in college.
College-educated people are also getting divorced less.
Yes, because you have the high status man that you want who has lots and lots of money. Yes, that's the way that works.
The women are also making a lot of money. Do you know how?
No. So here's the thing that's so funny. Here's what you didn't include here. So when it comes to the middle, right? You're right that the middle class, which I would argue,
You're saying I'm right a lot. by the way.
which probably doesn't exist. Right?
I appreciate you saying I'm right.
Well,
constantly.
the thing that's so fun about making a concession to a point is that it makes it easier for me to destroy it.
Oh, yeah.
So here's what's funny about this. You are correct that the middle class does get divorced a bit less. Or I'm sorry, get married a bit less, right? In some cases, a lot less, depending on what's going on. But here's why. You can only usually get a guy or a woman based around the social dynamics and social circle that you're in, right?
Sure.
They only have access to women or men who are roughly making around the same amount or not the same amount as them, and usually they meet them at work. College-educated women, different. Now they have access to this kind of wider pool of much more wealthy men, right? And so, yeah, of course they marry them more often. They have a higher status there for them to go after. That's why they do that.
I like how you think women are just going after high status men when they make up 45% of the workforce, 43% of entrepreneurs. They're making their own money, Andrew.
Can you tell me, though, what the disparity is between the amount of money that these college-educated women make compared to their college-educated husbands, sir?
I'm not sure, but
Yeah, you're not sure.
I'm not sure.
Oh, that's such a shock. Well, let me tell you, because I am sure, right? It's a significant
Why don't you give me a
amount
number
more.
then? If you know so much, give me a number.
Because I don't remember if it's
Oh,
between.
it's significant,
I
though.
don't remember if it's between 0.5 or 1.
Camera problems.
But it's at least
1 second. I'm gonna have to restart the stream. Something's up with the camera.